You know that feeling of true financial calm, that deep-seated sense that no matter what life throws at you, a sudden repair, a job loss, you've got a cushion.
A soft landing.
A soft landing, exactly. Well, that's what we're talking about today. We're building that sacred financial cushion, what some people call precautionary savings or a security buffer.
It really is the baseline for everything else.
Oh,
It's your financial oxygen mask. I love how the planner Carl Richards put it. He said it's the money you hope never to use, but you bless having. It's a shield, not a sword for growth.
that's a perfect way to put it. And our source material, which pulls from some really established financial models, is crystal clear on this. So our mission for this deep dive is to cut through the noise and answer two really practical questions for you. How much do you actually need? And where should you keep this money so it's safe, but also ready when you need it?
And, before we jump in, just a quick word.
Mhm.
It's really important to remember that what we're showing today it's general, it's simplified, and it's for educational purposes. This isn't personalized investment advice, so please, you have to do your own detailed research based on your own situation.
Absolutely. We're handing you the blueprint, but you're the one who has to pour the concrete. So let's start with the philosophy, because this is, I think, where the discipline really starts. Our sources all stress that setting this money aside is vital before you even think about investing. But why? I mean, if you have a great credit score, why not just use a credit card in a pinch?
That's a great question. And the answer is really about psychological peace and, more importantly, protecting your long-term assets. The whole point is to face a major unforeseen event,
Something big.
right? Something big, like losing your job for several months and being able to handle that without a complete financial domino effect. If you don't have that cash, you're forced to panic.
And what does that forced panic look like in financial terms?
It means selling your investments at the absolute worst possible time. Imagine the market takes a 20% dip, but right then, your roof starts leaking and you need $5,000.
Oh, that's the nightmare scenario.
It is. If your buffer is empty, you have to sell your stocks when they're down, locking in losses that you could have just ridden out if you'd had the cash. This buffer lets you withstand the shock without wrecking your long-term plan. You get to invest from a place of strength, not desperation.
So it's basically insurance for your investment portfolio. That makes so much sense. But
Yeah.
we have to be super clear on the rules here. The source material calls this money sacred. So what is it not for?
It is not a convenience fund.
Mhm.
It is not for a last-minute vacation deal or for, covering your holiday shopping. The moment you dip into this for anything other than a genuine emergency, you've just destroyed the whole point.
You've popped the airbag.
You've popped the airbag. You're reintroducing the very anxiety it was built to eliminate. The sources are really clear. This is the money you want when you have, well, no more money.
Okay, let's unpack that and get into the math. If we accept the philosophy, the big question is, what's the magic number? There seems to be a pretty strong consensus in the material.
There is. The recommendation is that your buffer should cover somewhere between 3 and 6 months of your total expenses. And 6 months is often the gold standard.
Why 6 months specifically?
Well, a lot of financial research shows that the average time someone is unemployed in many economies can easily stretch past 3 months, sometimes closer to 5 or 6, depending on the field. So 6 months gives you a really substantial cushion to find a new role without that sense of dread.
And the key word you said there is total expenses. This is where I think a lot of people can trip up. It's not just your rent and your phone bill.
Exactly. We have this great relatable example from someone named Sandra in the material, and her calculation really shows why you have to account for those hidden costs.
Let's walk through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the big mistake is forgetting those annual or irregular expenses like car registration, insurance premiums, things that only pop up once or twice a year. In the example, Sandra has about $1,400 in direct monthly bills.
The predictable stuff.
Right. But she's smart. She also sets aside $200 every single month, specifically for those bigger annual expenses. So her true monthly expenditure, the number you have to use for the calculation, is $1,600.
That's a critical number.
It is. So you take that $1,600, you multiply it by 6 for the full target, and Sandra realizes she needs a total buffer of $9,600, which is, a very real number.
It is, and it can feel huge. I mean, seeing a number like $9,000 or $10,000 can feel paralyzing. But what I love in the source material is her mindset. She acknowledges it's a big goal, but she says, well, that will be done little by little.
Yes.
She doesn't get stuck on the final number. Her first goal, the psychological one, is just to save 1 month's worth, just that first 1,600.
And that psychological trick is brilliant. It's that one step after the other mindset. Once you have that first month saved up, you've already eliminated the most immediate, terrifying fragility. It gives you this tangible peace of mind, and, it builds momentum.
And that's probably why automatic transfers are so highly recommended.
Absolutely. If the money just moves on its own, you're way more likely to hit the target without even thinking about it.
Okay, so we've got the philosophy, we've got the math. Now, if this money is our sacred insurance policy, where do we actually keep it? It needs to be safe, it has to be accessible, but ideally, it earns a little something so inflation doesn't just eat it alive.
Right. You need that perfect trifecta, the financial Goldilocks zone. And the sources are very specific about the characteristics here. Safety and liquidity come first. Always.
So lay out those criteria for us again.
Okay. First, the time horizon is long-term, 5 years or more. Which sounds a little weird because you need the money fast, but it means the purpose is indefinite. This fund needs to exist forever.
Got it.
Second, risk level, low. Capital preservation is the game, not growth. Third, liquidity, high. You need to be able to get your hands on it in a few days max. And finally, the return is moderate, maybe 2 to 3%, just enough to fight off a little bit of inflation.
So why not just a high-yield savings account, an HYSA? I mean, that seems to check all the boxes, right? Low risk, high liquidity, and right now the rates are pretty good.
That is a perfectly valid and often the simplest solution for many people. But the sources we reviewed, they lean towards an even more conservative approach, something with an even higher degree of capital guarantee.
Okay, let's break down that specific recommendation and translate the jargon.
So the sources advise using a structure that's common in continental Europe, a type of life insurance contract they call assurance vie, but structured in a very conservative way. For a global audience, just think of it as a kind of a highly structured long-term savings wrapper. It's a vehicle to hold your assets in.
And what do they recommend putting inside that wrapper to keep the capital safe?
This is the key part. They advise putting either 100% or at least 80% of the money into what they call Fond Zero. And you can think of Fond Zero as capital guaranteed funds. Their defining feature is that the principal, the money you put in, is guaranteed not to fall. That guarantee is what makes it so attractive for this purpose, maybe even more than a standard savings account.
That capital guarantee is obviously the most important piece for a security buffer. But what about the other 20%? Why not just go 100% guaranteed?
Well, if you go with the 80-20 split, you can put that remaining 20% into what are called unités de compte, which are basically investments tied to bonds or stocks. That small portion lets you search for a slightly better return, maybe to hit that 3% target, without really risking the safety of the whole fund.
So the big takeaway for you, the listener, no matter where you live, is that the vehicle for this money has to be liquid and offer the absolute highest capital guarantee you can find. Safety over returns.
Safety first, always.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me. We have the math, we have the mechanics, but what about the willpower? How do we make sure we stick to that untouchable rule, especially when, a great deal on a new car comes along?
Yeah, that requires some behavioral engineering, really. The fund has to be kept separate. Ideally, it's in an account where it's not super easy to make an impulse withdrawal. It's sacred. It has to stay full and ready for its real job, which is to be a shock absorber.
Right.
If you crack it open for a non-emergency, you're not just draining the fund, you're draining your own peace of mind. You're dismantling your own safety net.
And even though our source material gives us these very structured plans, there's a bigger piece of wisdom here about personal responsibility, isn't there? The structure is a guide, not a commandment.
Oh, absolutely. We love the Charlie Munger quote here. Take ideas where they are, but use your own brain to assemble them. The framework we've laid out, the 3-6 months, the low-risk vehicles, these are excellent guideposts. But every single financial decision you make has to be based on your own research, your goals, your timeline, your tolerance for risk.
No guide can replace that personal effort. The sources are there to educate you, not to decide for you.
So here's a thought to leave you with. If the whole purpose of building this security buffer is to let you sleep at night, to let you take other, smarter risks that felt too scary before, what's the first long-term goal you now feel confident enough to pursue, knowing that your safety net is in place? That's a powerful question to ask yourself this week.
That's a great thought to chew on. So to quickly recap what we covered today, remember the 3 to 6 month rule. Remember to calculate your total expenses, including those tricky annual costs. And remember, this fund needs to live in a low-risk, highly liquid, capital guaranteed vehicle where safety always, always comes before return. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. If you found these insights helpful, it would be great if you could take just a second to like this episode, and please subscribe to the channel so you never miss another one. We'll see you next time.